What's up, y'all? This is Judgement Silversword by M. Kai, who would later go on to develop Eschatos, Natsuki Chronicles, Ginga Force. This is my first shooting game that I've played of theirs. It's very, very good. Crazy that it was initially released on the Wonderswan, because it's really, it's quite long, it's deep, it's very, very difficult. Not to say that a handheld can't have a game like that has those qualities, but it's just a little surprising that something with this much kind of replayability and, I don't know, technical kind of finesse required to complete it and to score well in it would be on a system that limits your control to, of course, those like little 4 dpad buttons of the Wonderswan. Never held a Wonderswan before, but I can't imagine it's super comfortable and easy to be doing like precise inputs on it for 25 plus minutes, especially if you're like trying to feather the rapid shot and the wide shot like you see me doing here with an auto fire macro. That's the way that most people play this game. You have 2 separate shot types, but you're kind of again using a macro to feather them at 30 hertz each, I want to say, so that yeah, you're basically shooting both at the same time. Hauser, who's a kind of stalwart in the shooting game community, the Western shooting game community, has a tutorial on Steam to set this up with joystick. So that's what I used. I cleared this on a stick, and yeah, just it makes your damage output quite significant. It allows you to kind of pump up these, get these big score multipliers for shooting your bullets into enemies at a more intense rate or faster rate. I'm not exactly sure, the like kind of math behind what pumps your multiplier up exactly, but I do know if you point blank, and if you kind of hang your shot on a single enemy, you're going to get higher numbers. So that's something to keep in mind. And while I've been talking, we've gotten a third of the way through the game, so I'll start trying to talk about what's going on here as it's getting harder and harder. So you'll see that I'm trying to like point blank a lot to keep my multiplier up, but that base multiplier up in the top left, the red number, is going to slowly creep upward for the next like few levels. That's because I'm not using the shield mechanic that the game gives you. I'm just not turning it on at all. It's staying at 100% charge, and what that does is as the levels go on, if you keep that shield at 100 and never let a bullet hit it, your base multiplier, that is to say the bottommost multiplier that you can have, creeps upward. So now it looks like I'm at 4 times 4, and this is the way I believe that you can, like, this is the kind of best way to play the beginning part of the game to get a good score. I guess be wrong about that. Maybe some advanced players are like using their shield right off the bat, because kind of the yin and yang of the scoring is the static score bump, which you get for not using your shield. The other way is to use your shield a hell of a lot and kind of put it up into the faces of enemies and their bullets, and in that way you pump the multiplier quite a lot also. So I'll point that out once I start using the shield, which eventually I do. So you can see that this is like not so bullet hell yet. It's kind of like got the guise of a more traditional shooter in terms of like the patterns and the enemy formations in the beginning part of the game. That will definitely change. The game is very much it's, I would describe the later parts of it as danmaku for sure, as opposed to kind of like traditional dad shmup. But these levels are definitely more traditional, old school shmup, and it's all fun. It's all really fun to play. You see, I've memorized the patterns of shots here, and I'm just kind of going through the motions. These first, I would say, 15 stages are pretty trivial. once you practice them enough, and it's at stage 15 onward, or specifically stage 17 onward, that the game spikes in difficulty and becomes what I think, even as a relatively experienced player now, really fucking hard. So yeah, I mean, you'll see the difficulty of the tightness of the patterns, and they do this crazy thing in this game, a neat design thing where they'll show you enemies one by one, and then they'll put them together, and the patterns kind of layer on top of one another in these kind of perfect ways to make an entirely new thing, even though it's just kind of like two of the same enemy or two different enemies that you fought before hanging out together on the screen. And that's something that maybe other shooters do, but this one puts it to use a lot, and to good effect, in my opinion. This guy has the best way to handle that guy is to stay just to his left. When you fight two of them, that'll come in handy. Okay, this is the hardest. This is where the game starts. So here you got to be really careful. I can usually always dodge that first wave of all that stuff, but then it gets really hard because they just flood the screen with these guys. And I'm trying not to use my shield, which again, your shield will it'll eat bullets, but it takes some time to do it, and as it's trying to eat them, depending on the size of the bullet, it pushes you back. So it's like not super easy to use the shield for survival purposes in every section. So I got through that without dying, which is rare-ish for me. So my base multiplier is at 9 now, and unfortunately I don't go too much farther keeping it fully unused. There was a point at which I had to make a decision to just like take a death or use the shield, and maybe I don't think the multiplier I don't know if the multiplier kind of continues to go up if you take a death, but I decided I'm just kind of getting this clear, not going so hard for score with this game, so I just decided to use my shield there to protect myself from some of these guys, because this pattern is like really hard. So you'll see my numbers back down to -1. Again, I'm not totally sure. I'm just tired. I've probably seen it before where I've died and I could tell what I probably have somewhere in my brain what the fucking number does if you die still without using your shield. I'm not sure if it drops or if it stays, but I just chose to use it to keep a life, because at the end of the day, even though this game floods you with extends, every life is important. The last bosses are so tough that even double-digit lives it's not a guarantee that you'll kind of live through the gauntlet. So this mirror, or no, the mirror is when there's two. I think this boss is called like ROH, or I don't know the exact name of it, but you can tell that I've devised a very specific little pattern, little route to beat this guy. And one of them, it takes some practice to get your like routing down, but one is not that difficult. Well, spoiler alert, eventually in the game you fight two of them, and that's the best example of what I was talking about before, where like these patterns just start like layering on top of one another, and you think, well, how the fuck could I ever survive two of these guys doing those patterns in kind of like a song like row 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 your boat is you can do in a round, and you start a verse of the song like 4 measures in, and they layer on top of one another. That's kind of like what the bosses do. You'll see that better, but anyway, in these levels with these little kind of these little triangular ships, there's always kind of a way to make it easier on yourself by being aggressive. This game does not reward you for being cowardly, as most shmups do not, but this one especially, it's like you want to get right up in the face of all of these lines of enemies and get them off the screen as quickly as possible, or they will absolutely flood down toward the bottom of the screen and destroy you. here's an example of using the shield for kind of a point gathering purpose. I'm ramming into those guys because they're slow and their bullets are slow, and I can hit the shield on their bullets to kind of quickly build a double-digit multiplier. I'm not doing a ton of scoring in this run. At this point, I'm just enjoying playing for survival. The score that I got isn't bad, but it's because you get a huge something like 20 million point bonus for clearing the true last boss. So it's like you're scraping by for little bits here and there, and you know, if you're not like super serious about scoring, it's gonna feel a little chintzy to like scrape, I don't know, let's say 200,000 points or 500,000 points out of a section, when you're getting like, you know, when basically your score is going to be like somewhere in the 40 to 45 million range, kind of, no matter what you do, or 40 to 50 million range if you're not like grinding the hell out of the early parts of the game for score. So yeah, I would say this game is fun to score. I enjoyed kind of experimenting with it. See, that was another instance where I rammed the shield up against like a shotgun blast of bullets, and I got a 30 times multiplier out of it. Of course, only on a 7,000 point enemy, so again, that's not like a massive number of points, but it's, you know, it adds up. It adds up. If you're willing to put the time in to route every stage for stuff like that, using your shield to get that multiplier up, or conversely, no missing and keeping your shield fully charged, you can build this up pretty good. And here's where the patterns that you've seen before are beginning to layer themselves on top of one another and get pretty difficult to dodge, in my opinion, again. So here's a tricky enemy. Crisscrossy patterns that you kind of got to dodge on the edge of the screen and then go back to the middle. I'll mention about the extends. I'm not sure what triggers them. It's not really totally clear to me whether it's just pure point value, or you have to like meet certain parameters of like killing enemies fast enough, or some combination of both. But generally, the extends pop up in roughly the same places in the runs that I had, so it's like, you know, you can make them, point being, you can make them pretty consistently appear if you route the game. And, you know, I didn't worry too much about why they were coming out or what exactly, again, the math was behind it. But I was just glad that they were coming when they were. So yeah, here we go. 2 of these guys now, and it's like, oh damn, this is what I was talking about, the kind of round of these patterns working on top of each other to make something totally new and way more difficult. And again, here's the hard Danmaku, like bullet hell, coming into full view, if it wasn't already in the last like 5 stages. Pretty fun to dodge this, and I think, did I manage to no miss? I think I managed to no miss this, which I was very happy with, because like there's often times where I was dropping like 4 lives to these guys. It's not so easy to route some of these, like, you know, blasts of seemingly RNG bullets. I'm not sure if they're full RNG or if they just like kind of wacky spread out, but in the same way every time. I did take a death there, bummer, but oh well. It gave me a chance to try and hammer some points out of this thing, because these guys give you 30,000 points on a death, and if you can manage to shield some of their bullets, let's say if you like die and use your iframes to like shield, you can get like 30 million points times like 20, if your timing's right. Okay, so this is one of the points where it's like, yep, you could let all of these guys flood the screen, or you could just head up to the top of the screen and point blank the shit out of them and let these split bullets pass you, and this is a break in the game. Like I'm not unconvinced it's not purposeful. Or, yeah, I think it might be purposeful that they give you that pattern that you can just like chill out after dodging those crazy that mirror those mirror square bosses. Ooh, that was a good little round for that particular section. That's another section that is difficult for me that I did well on this run. So at this point, oh, bummer, stupid death. At this point, I'm not thinking at all about score. These last few stages are just fun to play. They're really nicely designed little micro challenges. One after the other. Oops, again, stupid death. See, started to get psyched out here, as one does when one has a really good first part of a game and do stupid things, and I hate it. You just want that perfect run where everything goes right, but of course you never get it. It's like perfect execution in the first half of the game, except for dropping my multiplier, you could argue, which is a pretty big bummer actually. But like in terms of survival, perfect, and then you just take two idiotic deaths in an easy stage that you've beaten a million times. That stinks, but yeah, such is the way of things. Okay, these guys you gotta tap dodge, and you gotta tap dodge them aggressively, and then you hang out at the bottom right corner for this section. I think I die. Yep, I die again there. Usually they're further to the left than they were, and I kind of panicked because they were over way more toward the right. But if I had just stayed cool, I could have dodged all of that. You're kind of just supposed to stay in the corner and let them float up the screen and do their thing, and you like you tap up or down a couple times to dodge their bullets. Using my shield just to get out of some patterns at the edges of the screen, and those little bullets, those little kind of spinning line bullets are the weakest ones. You can destroy them with the shield the fastest. So whenever you see those, you can really not be afraid to raise your shield. This guy, there's a set way you can move around the screen that his giant sword doesn't hit you. I did it there. Not really worth talking through. I mean, you just watch it and you can learn the pattern, but otherwise, you'll get destroyed if your route isn't good on that part. You always want to be to this boss's right when he releases that laser, and then he'll just repeat these same patterns. You want to be to the outside of that pattern, and I just died. Golly, shouldn't have died there. Just a needless death, but got an extend. All right, 9 lives going into the final boss. Not the TLB, that's coming, but just the final boss, Divine Flow. That's a static pattern that'll miss you if you're anywhere in front of him and you just stay still. Get all the way to the right to dodge this, and then kind of slowly float down in diagonals, and then immediately dodge this shit by doing hard 90-degree diagonals, or 45. I mean, you know what I mean. Hard diagonals, down and up. Ooh, this you could spend so much time learning the game, learning all the stages, and then this guy will just demolish you a bunch until you get it sufficiently practiced. This is like this plus the TLB is almost like a whole mini shooter in itself, just because of how long it is and how many patterns that require, in my opinion, a good amount of memorization to get through, and like really difficult reaction dodging there, just a combination of the two. At the edge of the screen you got to use your shield to block those out, and I didn't do it. Oh, terrible execution. Okay, I think from here on it goes okay, but It's a good thing I had all these lives, because I was making dumb mistakes. Dumb mistakes. It's just incredibly difficult. All this stuff chases you down like just feral dogs. Just all these Taito lasers and all of these like fucking kind of unpredictable patterns. Ugh. Okay, all right. I think we took 3 deaths in that kind of phase of that boss, which is not good. Not good at all. Tap dodge from the very right of the screen for this pattern. And I believe I die again. Let's see. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, good. Yeah, so that's the best way to handle that pattern, I think. There could be other ways, but I think a nice little tap dodge from the right and just hoping that you've damaged it enough before that to get it done with before that pattern totally gets you all the way to the left-hand side. Okay. TLB, 31st area. This is all highly memorized. A light little tap there. 2 light little taps here. 1, 2. And now this is more reactive. It's just, you know, the slowdown here can kind of fuck you sometimes. There's a lot of slowdown in this game on the Wonderswan, and they emulate it here well, but it's like, it doesn't feel good, that's for sure. Sometimes it fucks with your rhythm. Okay, this is a you just stay still and everything passes you kind of a pattern. And there you go, that's that first phase. Then you go up to dodge that. And this is all kind of reactive, this one here. I don't have a strict route for that. But you have your shield that you can use if you get into trouble, and the bullets aren't particularly fast, so. Okay, this one, my advice is to really stay in the middle as much as possible and hit your long shot so you hammer the you hammer the enemy as much as possible, because the pattern after this is like so brutal, and you want him to be mostly dead so that he can't do it. He just straight up can't. So basically, like, stay in the middle as much as possible during those slower kind of times where he's shooting down, and then go and point blank him and hope you kill him before he releases the most brutal, like, pentagram pattern. Okay, here's Mitsurugi again. Get around his sword, point blank him, and now he'll release these slow-moving, bouncy balls. If you stay underneath him and do light dodging, light little taps, you should get, you should have a relatively easy time missing all of that. It can kind of get, okay, and now a quick little taps to dodge these. I mean, it's just the kind of stuff that you have to, practice a ton. Alright, react to that as much as possible, and then bring your shield out, and you can be confident that your shield will take care of the little things. And now, I didn't figure out a good way around that attack, and then this attack is a ceremonial murder, which I love. I love this part of the game. He takes you to just another dimension with this evil looking, or like, I don't know, Sistine Chapel looking ass background, and just destroys you. You can't do anything about it. And then he starts repeating the patterns. Oop, death. Stupid death. That's kind of hard though. He's just jittering all around while he's doing that attack. Alright, got an extend. Last boss, or last phase, Judgement Silversword. And you gotta use your shield, and I didn't do it there. And you gotta use your shield to block all of these mega fast little attacks. And getting your shield hit by any one of the slower blue bullets will kind of destroy it for a second. And so you want to stay as far away from those as possible so you can get your shield up and not have it, not have it break like glass when the ultra fast pattern comes at you. And that's it. That's what you're doing here, and the patterns will change slightly, but that the super fast one will increase in its frequency, and you just have to fucking hope you survive and get your shield up as much as possible. And there we go. So I ended up having enough resources to do it, but not by much. Not a good performance in the final boss or the TLB, I would say. Like, not terrible, maybe, but like certainly not good. That was a ton of lives I dropped there. But there you go, 20 million. No, that's 2 million survive bonus. So, but you get some crazy amount for completing. So yeah, that was fast. That's Judgment Silversword for the Wonderswan. Great game. I would love to try the Wonderswan version just to kind of see it in its true habitat, but don't know if I'll ever get that chance. But definitely check that out. It's cheap on Steam. It usually goes on sale for like a couple bucks. If you're into kind of caravan style shooters where you have to you're encouraged to kill stuff super fast, super aggressively for more score, it's a really good one, and it has some nice stylistic little flourishes. So yeah, great game.